I'm joined now by Jenifer Sarver. She was the former Deputy Director of Public Affairs in the George W. Bush administration. She's also the founder of Sarver Strategies, a strategic communication consultancy. She's joining us from Austin, Texas. Give me your thoughts on the testimony today. It was feisty at times, testy a bit, but also very tight-lipped at other times.
Yes, well, thanks for having me on, Mike. I did think the hearing was very interesting today. What's frustrating about this whole situation is that the headline should be that new reports show that the Russians hacked up to 39 states in last year's race. Unfortunately, we're talking about this political theater and this soap opera that continues with this Russian cloud hanging over the Trump administration. I think if President Trump and Attorney General Sessions thought today's hearing was going to clear the air, it didn't do that. It just made things a little murkier. It felt like Attorney General Sessions was evasive. He was very angry at times, and certainly he had selective memory. He selectively used executive privilege. He selectively recalled things. He selectively, decided what he was going to share and what he wasn't going to share. And I think people came away frustrated.
Yeah, Senator Angus King from Maine said he really didn't have any authority to not answer the questions, and yet he still didn't.
Yeah, and I think, listen, I don't think that President Trump colluded with the Russians. I don't think that that Attorney General Sessions likely colluded with the Russians. But instead of them giving a full throated effort to really get to the bottom of the Russian investigation and restore confidence in our democracy, they're focused on self-preservation. And I think that's the frustration you heard. Certainly there was grandstanding from Republican members of the Senate, grandstanding from Democratic members of the Senate. They're really playing to their audiences back home. But we heard a whole lot of nothing from Attorney General Sessions. And I think the American people want answers. I'm an American first, not a Republican or a Democrat. And if Russians are trying to interfere with my democracy, I am concerned about that. And I want my president and attorney general to be equally concerned about that.
Yeah, you mentioned the grandstanding. It seemed like some of the senators very interested in making sure that their sound bites end up in the news. And I'm thinking of the Arkansas Senator Tom Cotton. I mean, he made this point that Jason Bourne, James Bond, saying this Trump-Russia narrative, basically a bad spy movie. And obviously, that's going to get a lot of play, but it doesn't really get at the heart of getting some real answers, does it?
Yeah, no, we don't have any more answers than we did before Attorney General Sessions testified. And really, I think that when President Trump is not talking about infrastructure or the economy or healthcare or things that really move our country forward, and we're just responding to allegations around Russia and focusing around Russia, it's a loss for him and it's a loss for the American people. And frankly, we're in this position because of the actions he took. His firing of Comey, Attorney General Sessions' signing of a letter to fire Comey really just added fuel to this fire. If he's going to recuse himself, he can't also sign a letter firing the guy who's leading the investigation. So they've brought this down on themselves, and I'm frustrated as a Republican, I'm frustrated as an American, and I really think that the American people want answers, and we're getting a lot of stonewalling.
You mentioned frustrated as a Republican. You worked in a Republican administration. Undoubtedly, this has to take its toll on people within the administration. Does his testimony today stop the bleeding, or is this still a matter that at the White House that they're trying to figure out ways to deal with this?
I think that the White House is constantly putting its finger in the dike, and the holes just keep getting bigger and bigger, and there's more and more holes. And instead of solving a problem and looking like the adults in the room that are fixing this issue and getting to the bottom of it, they look like they're just out for number one. President Trump and his administration are about self-preservation, and they're not about the American people. And that's frustrating. I want to be talking about jobs and the economy and national defense and the fact that another country tried to interfere in our election. That is troublesome, and that is not a partisan issue. That's an American issue. And instead of being worried about what it looks like for him, he is not putting the American people first, and he's not putting the interests of democracy first. And I think it makes people around the country, who around the world, who aren't our allies and who aren't our friends, it makes them sit back and chuckle and laugh. When the President of the United States is focused on these issues and not focused on driving forward American entrepreneurism and American economy and American freedom, Americans lose and the rest of the world wins. So that's really frustrating as a Republican and really as an American.
We will leave it there. Jenifer Sarver joining us from Austin, Texas. Thanks so much. A historic